Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the BFNL Footy Show for another week. Fantastic to be joining you once again. The halfway mark, Liam, of season 2016 has come and gone. It is all downhill from here as we go towards the McDonald's 2016 final series. I'm Sean Kelly. Joining me as always, Liam Brady. Brady, it's great to have you here once again.
Yeah, good to be on the show again. Sean, looking forward to talking about massive weekend. A few interesting results from last weekend, mate.
Yeah, there certainly was. And I suppose the first result to talk about, how can we not? Sebastopol defeating Darley. Didn't see this one coming, it's fair to say, but you get that heavy track at Marty Bush Reserve, and we've seen it a couple of times over the last couple of years that Sebastopol love playing in those conditions, and they got the job done against the reigning premier.
Yeah, they've been building Sebastopol. I think they've certainly showed some really good signs this year so far prior to last weekend. Mm-hmm. As I've mentioned before, probably a quarter and a half of footy's let them down most weeks, but on the weekend they're able to put a four-quarter performance together in obviously the mud at Marty Bush Reserve. It's just great recognition and reward for the hard work that Shane Simpson's put in over the last couple of years, and they've obviously got a really young group. They're all building and working in the same direction, and obviously to add players like Brett Goods into the side has really helped as well. So really good result for the whole club in general, and their twos are going really well. Their twos are inside the top six. So obviously a lot more depth this year too, which is good to see.
Having Michael Powell come back into the side in recent weeks as well has been a bit of a godsend for the Burrows as well, and he played his best game for the year on the weekend with 6 of the Burrows' 8 goals.
Yeah, look, he's an exciting player. We've seen him play at VFL level the last couple of years, so he can certainly step up and play at a high level, and to have him back in the side is certainly a bonus for Sebastian. We know he can take a really good mark inside the forward 50. He's pretty quick and a good set shot for goal, so he's a very important player to have back.
Yeah, he is indeed. Great to see Sebastopol up and running. What does that mean for Darley, though?
Yeah, look, Darley, it's I thought they had turned the corner. Obviously, they started the season pretty slowly and built their way back into the season with a couple of good wins. But look, I think they'll be up against it now to make the final 6. Mm-hmm. That was just a must-win game for them on the weekend. They weren't able to get the job done, so they just need to keep winning and just worry about, I suppose, their own performance. And if they do sneak into the finals, I'm sure they'll be a threat. But they need to certainly play a bit of footy than they did on the weekend.
Yeah, I think you're dead right with that one. Talking point number 2, the Redan Footy Club up and about at the moment, and they're coming as well. They had a very impressive away win this weekend at Bacchus Marsh, and they're very much looking like they want to get a fixing on one of those top 3 spots.
Yeah, look, I think Redan, they're building. Look, I saw them play against Sunbury probably about a month ago now, and they were very disappointed. They had about 8 or 9 players out of that side. They're starting to get a few of those players back now. I wouldn't be surprised if they fall into that 3rd position on the ladder, and we know that that 3rd position it's not a bad spot to finish. And I think they'll play their best footy in the second half of the year when you need to. So they've got some really experienced players back. They're just a side you never want to write off. So I think they'll be thereabouts at the business end of the season.
Yeah, I think you might be right as well. Redan going along very nicely at the moment. Now, third talking point for the week, Liam, some recognition for some of our fantastic young junior footballers that are jetting off to various different parts this weekend. Firstly, Jed Hill from Ballarat Footy Club, picked in the Vic Country under-16 squad as well. A fantastic achievement for a great young player.
Yeah, Jed's obviously improved a fair bit over the last 12 months, and we know that his father, Jason, has been a fairly decorated player in the region for some time now. And look, Jed, from all reports and just speaking to a few people that have coached him in the last 6 to 12 months, his improvement has been unbelievable. And for him to make the Victorian country side was a great effort. So I think they play their first game against Vic Metro this Sunday. So
they do.
All the best to Jed, and it's great for a player to be rewarded from this region.
It is indeed, and Jed kicking 6 goals in a trial game as well really helped his cause and has been doing some great things with the Rebels under-16s earlier this year as well. So well done to Jed, and well done also to the 11 BFL players that are heading off with you this weekend, Liam, up to far north Queensland for the annual AFL Goldfields trip. You can see the players' names on the screen at the moment. Blake Colley from Darley, Nick Canny, Bailey Medwell, and Will McGannon from East Ballarat, Joel O'Connell and Jacob Lohman from Lake Wendouree, Jesse Marshall from Mount Clear, Ethan McLaren, Isaac Pertzel and Elliot Lamb from North Ballarat, and Monty Judd from Redan. Great to see some strong BFL representation amongst that squad again.
Yeah, it's a great trip for those boys to be involved in. I've been lucky enough to go away the last couple of years and going away again, and look, it's a great live experience. They obviously play 2 games of pretty good footy against 2 good opposition in an AFL Cairns team and then a combined AFL Townsville/Mackay team. 2 really good venues. The first game's at Kazali Stadium in Cairns, and the second game's at Tony Nolan Stadium. And look, you've been up there, Shawnee. You know how good the facilities are.
Oh, they're A1.
And the boys get a bit of a cultural experience in going to Port Douglas, Mossman Gorge, those types of things. So it's a great experience and reward for all the players and support staff going away. So I'm sure those kids you mentioned will really enjoy the trip.
Yeah, it is. It's a great trip as well. Obviously, a chance for some boys to experience a bit of footy at a bit of a different level, and obviously going and experiencing different conditions to what they're used to. Great recognition for our young junior players. Time to turn our attention back to senior footy, though. Round 10 this week in the Red Onion Creative Ballarat Football and Netball League, and some great games going on this weekend, Liam. Ballarat taking on North Ballarat City at Alfred and Oval to start it off, with obviously North City coming off the back of a pretty big win, and Ballarat rebounding pretty well against Melton. That game was done and dusted at quarter time, but Ballarat worked themselves back into the game.
Yeah, it was good to see the way they fought back after quarter time. But as you said, North City, played some pretty good footy the last couple of weeks, and you just think that, with a young Ballarat side, I reckon they'll sort of tire as the season goes on, and North City are going to be thereabouts come September, so I think North City will be too strong here.
Darley taking on Melton at Darley Park. This is a huge game of football this weekend between a Darley side that obviously want to rebound after that loss against Sebastopol last weekend, and Melton side that were very, very, very good in that first quarter last week. I was lucky enough to go down and watch that, and they flew that quarter, but then let it slip a little bit for the three quarters. Did still enough to win the game, staying in the top six. But Darley want their top six spot, and can the real Darley stand up?
Yeah, I'm going to tip Melton here just based on form. I think you've got the two form lines of both sides, and Melton are clearly playing better footy at the moment. Obviously, the game has been played at Darley, which will help Darley. They do play pretty good footy at home, but I just think Brad Murphy's boys are going well enough to be able to get the job done at Darley Park.
Melton South taking on Lake Wendouree this weekend at the Melton Rec Reserve as well. Top versus bottom in this one. The Panthers came back from a bit of a break last week and ran into an angry North Ballarat City, which is never ideal, and it's not going to get any easier this weekend against the undefeated Ladder Leaders.
Yeah, tough assignment. Look, Melton South, it's a big task to beat the top of the table team in Lake Wendouree at home. I think Lakers are obviously, we've said it all year, they've been the form side. They're playing great football. Look, Melton South, hopefully they can be up and about early and be in the game for as long as possible. But I think Lakers should have a bit too much class there.
Andrew Pitson, 10 goals ahead on the Tony Lockett goal kicking chart at the moment. How many do you pencil him in for this week?
I was talking to him Sunday actually, and he said, catch me if you can.
Yes.
So he's pretty confident, the lad.
Yeah, he's always confident.
Yeah, he just needs to maintain it though.
Exactly.
He probably might get a fraction more attention in coming weeks, and
especially with Lucas Anderson not on the side.
Yeah, no doubt, and it's all about Pitto being able to perform, in the big games and come September. But he's obviously playing pretty good footy at the moment, but he needs to make sure he continues that form.
Redan taking on Sebastopol at the City Oval this weekend. Obviously a great win by Sebastopol last weekend. They'll take that into this weekend, but a bit tougher assignment this week with Redan in very good form at the moment and playing on their home track.
Yeah, big test for Sebas here. Look, it'd be great to see them, be really competitive. I think Redan are playing good enough footy to be able to get the job done here. I think it'll be a lot closer than people think. I think they're around the 5 or 6 goal margin. I think Redan will be too strong.
And the last game for the weekend, Sunbury taking on East Point at Clark Oval. Sunbury with the bye last weekend. East Point rolled by Lake Wendouree fairly convincingly. Sunbury at Clark Oval always start favourites at home, and you'd think after a week off that they'd probably be a little bit too strong for East Point.
Yeah, really disappointing effort from the East Point boys last week. I thought they might have got a little bit closer than what they did, so I'm sure we'll see probably a few changes at East Point this week. We know they're a pretty good side, and they can play pretty good footy, so I wouldn't be surprised if they come out and take it right up to Sunbury. Look, Glenn Wilkins is a really good coach. I think Sunbury, just the fact that it's been the game's played at home, I think they'll win. But I want to see certainly a more spirited performance from East Point this weekend.
Yeah, so do I. Obviously, East Point still gunning for a top 6 spot, and these are the games that, if they don't win, they need to be extremely, extremely competitive in, so that they're not just making up the numbers if they do make the finals this year. That's all the time we've got this week, Brad. Thanks for joining us once again, mate.
Thanks, Shawnee. Good to be here, mate.
Enjoy the trip up to Queensland next week, mate. Just don't send us too many texts when the weather's 25 degrees up there and it's 5 degrees down here. And we'll obviously find somebody that won't be as good as you to fill your chair next week.
Looking forward to seeing who that may be, Shaun.
So am I.
Good luck with the show next week.
No, thanks for that, Liam. And thanks to you for joining us here on the BFNL Footy Show. We'll see you again next week right here on the BFL website.